morning, everybody. Yesterday we got a kit reveal for the final non-journey Gungan character, so the Gungan Phalanx, and this is the one that's supposed to kind of cohesively bring the team together because he's basically the tank, and we have the whole shield generator mechanic that goes into the Gungan team. Now, obviously, we don't have the final picture with Jar Jar not being released yet and him being kind of the glue that puts everything together at the end. But he is a support, and the tanking aspect of this team is going to be largely very important, again, because of that shield generator. We did also get some other kind of strange news involving the Omicron for this team. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but let's see what's going on here. So we have the Gungan Phalanx, as expected, light side tank, just the Gungan, nothing else. Can taunt when the ally shield generator loses multiple stacks of shielding in a turn. While the shield generator is active, Gungans are immune to protection disruption and gain foresight whenever Phalanx assists. Raise the shield reflects some of the incoming damage with retaliate and protect your allies with shield up. Assist his allies when he is not damaged by the enemy. And Phalanx brings the first Omicron for Galactic Challenges. Again, we're going to talk about that a little bit later. The community is kind of an uproar and largely very annoyed by that, but we'll save that for the end. Strategy tips. Fierce Poke can inflict defense down or daze if they already have defense down, which is something that was in the Gungan Bombardier's kit in terms of the damage that they would be inflicting. So it's just another way to do defense down. Making it difficult to defeat other allies. Heyo, watch out, gives Phalanx taunt and inflicts the enemy with tenacity down, allowing for all the powerful Gungan debuffs to be applied. So I'm assuming maybe a faster tank here, right? We're going to want that defense, that tenacity down applied rather quickly with all the debuffs that are going to need to be applied to this team. Phalanx gains max protection whenever he uses an ability while taunting, which increases his potential damage from raise the shield. Alright, let's see what we got here. So, Fierce Poke, final text, deals physical damage to the target enemy and inflicts defense down for one turn. If the target enemy already had defense down, apply daze for one turn. Whenever Phalanx attacks an enemy out of turn, the weakest Gungan ally gains 3 stacks of protection over time. Okay, pretty basic. One interesting thing to note here with this ability is we don't see flying blue balls all over the screen. And I think that that's going to be the theme for the Phalanx overall anyway. Heyo, watch out. Cooldown 4. Deal physical damage to all enemies and inflict tenacity down on them for 2 turns. If the enemy were separatist, also inflict provoked for 2 turns, which can't be copied, dispelled, or resisted. Phalanx taunts for 1 turn. If Phalanx was already taunting, he recovers 20% protection. Now, provoked is something that I think is relatively new. I believe Stop has it on their kit. Basically forcing counterattacks against the team, which is interesting. I didn't really think that would be a mechanic the Gungans would need, but we'll see if there's anything that kind of screams at us, or maybe Jar Jar will be that missing puzzle piece. Raise the shield, cooldown 4 turns. Dispel all debuffs on himself and deal physical damage to target enemy. Deal an additional instance of damage equal to 10% of Gungan Phalanx's max protection. Inflict vulnerable on all separatist enemies for 2 turns, which can't be copied, dispelled, evaded, or resisted. Gungan allies gain shield up. I'm assuming they mean protection up. 25% for 2 turns, and Phalanx gains retaliate for 2 turns, which can't be copied. Shield up is a new buff. Gain a shield based on maxed protection. So kind of protection up, but based on max protection, not on max health. Retaliate. Whenever this character is damaged by an attack, deal 20% of the damage received per stack to the attacker as true damage. This damage can't defeat enemies. Unique. Let Misa help. At the start of the battle, Phalanx loses 75% of max health and gains that much as max protection. Whenever Phalanx is not damaged by an enemy on the next On the next other Gungan ally's turn, that ally gains potency up for 1 turn. Phalanx will assist and remove 8 stacks of recharge from the ally shield generator, which is really nice. If the ally shield generator loses 2 or more stacks of plasma shielding in a single turn, Phalanx taunts for 1 turn. Whenever Phalanx uses an ability while taunting, he gains 2% protection, stacking for the rest of the encounter. Whenever the ally shield generator is destroyed, Phalanx recovers 50% protection, and Gungan allies dispel debuffs on themselves. If there is an active ally shield generator, Gungan allies are immune to protection disruption. Whenever Phalanx assists another Gungan ally, that ally receives Foresight. So then we also have the Omicron, which is for Galactic Challenges. We're going to pause here, and we'll talk about that afterwards, because this is basically the entire kit for the regular game modes. And I gotta say, Phalanx is... I'm a little bit disappointed here. It seems like we have 2 ways to earn Taunt. Number 1, we have a Taunt on a 4 cooldown attack, or a 4 cooldown ability that can only give Taunt for 1 turn, and it isn't sticky, which means that it's going to be easily debuffed by other teams. The other way to gain Taunt is for the shield generator to lose 2 or more stacks of plasma shielding in a single turn. What that basically means is we're going to be opening up the shield generator to a lot of attacks in a very short amount of time, and things like Commander Luke Skywalker are more than likely going to completely obliterate this, at least on defense. We have no idea how the AI is going to be hard-coded. We have no idea if Han shooting first is going to go after the plasma shielding right away, but what we do know is that we do not have a pre-taunt, and we have very limited ways to have to keep taunt for more than 1 turn. Basically, Phalanx is not going to remain taunting unless that shield generator is getting attacked, and that is something that as a team we largely don't want to happen. Now, when Boss Nass's kit first came to the game, right, we kind of readily assumed that the Gungan team would be a defensive powerhouse and would be more of a timeout team. But based on the way that Phalanx works, I don't think we're going to see that as much as we originally were planning for that to happen. Because it doesn't seem like we're going to have good AI control in this team, or very many options when the AI is controlling this team. I think that in general, some very easy team comps are going to take this out, especially things that can bypass taunt, or things that have a lot of debuffs on the team, because unlike characters like Bosk that have a little bit of a sticky taunt, or like JMK with General Kenobi, where that taunt is going to refresh itself, we're not seeing that here with the Gungans. The one thing that I do find interesting, though, is that on our second special, is it the second special? There it is. Deal an additional instance of damage equal to 10% of Gungan Phalanx's max protection. We don't know how much max protection the Gungan Phalanx is going to have. We can assume it's going to be relatively high with the unique. And there are multiple ways for the Gungans to gain max protection, which does mean that we're probably going to see a pretty strong attack, something like Malik or Malgus, that obviously is not going to get used very often, but might end up deleting characters that are being played. Now, once again, we don't have Jar Jar. We don't know how he's going to interact. We don't know if he's going to grant taunt to the Phalanx. We don't know if he is going to kind of be like a soft tank that I actually think is quite possible for him to fall in front of damage. So that might change the team dynamic completely. But as of right now, I have to say I'm largely pretty disappointed in the Phalanx's ability to tank. So let's now talk about the Galactic Challenges. For the first time ever, we are seeing an Omicron for Galactic Challenges in the game. Right now we have Territory Wars, we have GAC, we have Territory Battles, we have Conquest, and I've actually had it pointed out to me that a few of the GAC Omicrons are 5v5 only or 3v3 only. This is the first time we're seeing a Galactic Challenge Omicron. Right? At the start of the first turn, the ally shield generator gains 10 stacks of plasma shielding. Enemies can't assist if they are targeting Phalanx. At the start of the encounter, and whenever an enemy is defeated, all Gungan allies gain 100% evasion for 1 turn. Whenever a Gungan ally uses a special ability, for the next 2 turns, all Gungan's allies have 50% offense, and their basic ability expose the target enemy for 1 turn. Whenever a Gungan ally inflicts defense down, all Gungan allies gain offense up for 1 turn. Whenever a Gungan ally attacks out of turn, they remove 20% turn meter from the target enemy. So here's largely where I take issue with this. If we look at the Omicron report, we kind of annoy, oh my goodness. And we kind of ignore characters that are brand new. We look at Sortie, the only conquest Omicron in the game, and we can kind of recall Meathead putting out a survey not too long ago about conquest Omicrons and how we can get CG to force us to apply them more often. Sortie has been in the game for almost 2 years and is a very common relic character because of Leviathan and because of their requirements. We still see it only applied 8,721 times. Now, by comparison, if we were to pop all the way up to Territory Wars, to GAC, and we were to look at a character like Darth Bane, who's completely brand new, has only really been largely attainable for about a month and a half at this point. 2 out of the 3 of Darth Bane's Omicrons have an application rate of about double, if not higher than double, right? Rule of 2, we already have 20,000 of those applied in a month and a half. Darth Bane's Essence of Dominance, we have 15,000 of those applied. And even Malevolent Whirlwind, and again, he's only been out for a month and a half. There's 6,418 of those applied. Basically what CG is trying to do here is to get us to feel like there's more scarcity to our Omicrons by putting something in a completely different game mode and hoping we're all going to apply it. But the reality of the situation here is that it's going to be mostly unnecessary. Now, I did a Reddit post on this topic yesterday, and I did commit to the fact that even though I originally did say that I would do everything for the Gungans to completely max out the team, I've actually decided that in protest of this, that it will be the 1 red 1 that I leave on this team unless something fundamentally changes, because I don't think it's healthy for the player base. I don't think it's wise for anybody to commit this to their team, and I don't want to be party to it. So there's a lot of mumbo jumbo here, and it's something that you can look at if you're interested on Reddit. But the prime thing that we want to think about is that when a new faction comes to this game, we typically get about 2 to 3 months of a once-a-week feature for that team in GAC. And that feature normally lasts about 3 months, which means that we see between 8 to 12 new GCs for that faction over that time period. After that time period ends, it's more likely, especially for minor factions, that we're going to see an application every 3 to 4 months, which means that after the initial wave of Gungan GCs, we're going to probably see it 4 times a year until the game, ends. And with the PC client, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And with each new faction that's released in the game, that's going to be watered down even further. The other problem that I see with this Omicron is that when it comes to Galactic Challenges, there is a growing contention within the player base where we're not even trying to get the max crate anymore, and we're really just trying to get the 2 Omicron reward. The rewards between getting a 2 Omicron and getting the red crate are helpful, absolutely. But for a player who's been playing for a long time and the person who's most likely to be able to red crate, the difference in difficulty on many of these challenges versus the difference in rewards is largely not high enough to bother. And many players, especially with minor factions like Ewoks, just elect to get the 2 Omicrons and walk away. I know for a fact that if they decide to make these GCs harder just to make the Omicron a little bit more attractive, I, for one, am going to be doing that, even though I will have a full Relic 9 Gungan team. So the question is, what do we do about this? And there are a few solutions, and I've come up with a couple of them here. I'm not going to really spend too much time talking about them, but just so that we're aware, I believe that CG should adopt the model I suggested for raid Omicrons and only use GC Omicrons as well as Conquest Omicrons as a method of retiring raid Omicrons. So basically meaning that when raid Omicrons go out of season, they change to another game mode, another lesser game mode to make them a little bit more attractive to apply early on. GC Omicrons and Conquest Omicrons should actually be merged so that they are effective in both game modes. This would not fundamentally alter any PvP game modes and would provide some minor added incentive to applying them. This one's a little bit speculative because we don't know the cost. This is the first time we're seeing this, but GC Omicron should cost a significantly reduced amount. If they are in their current form with no other changes, the cost should be 5. If they are merged with Conquest, maybe 10. And finally, currently Omicrons provide a very large buff to one game mode. GC Omicron should still be merged with Conquest Omicrons, but should also provide a relatively small buff to other game modes. Basically what I'm saying is that I do not think the adoption rate on this Omicron is going to be very, very high. Actually, I think that at the 1 year mark, we're going to see less than 2,000 applications of this Omicron. And I actually believe that even though Sortie has 8,700 applications at roughly the 2 year mark, that we're going to see an application rate of 3,500 or less at that 2 year mark. So save the date for that. And we'll see what happens. But basically, I think that CG is making a mistake here. And that GC Omicrons are not the future that they are expecting. So once again, we have a little bit of crazy news with this GC Omicron. We have a tank who doesn't really seem to do a great job of tanking. And we have, this is such a lovely picture though. Like, can we just pause for a second and stare at this majestic Gungan Phalanx on the beach? Okay, so basically, with 4 out of the 5 of the Gungans out, we see a really offensively powerhouse team that I do think is going to do really, really, really well. I was hoping for them to be about an A- to an A squad, but with the tanking ability that we're seeing here, there's a possibility that we're going to be relegated to B+, unless Jar Jar fundamentally changes this team. I'm really hoping that that obviously happens, as the Jar Jar super fan that I am. But I guess we're going to have to wait and see. We are going to see 1 week of this marquee over this next week starting on Thursday, which means that even though sometimes these events, we will see a 1 week cadence between the last marquee and the first journey, I'm expecting we're going to see a 2 week cadence, so a 2 week jump before we get Jar Jar released, specifically because of the way that the Phalanx marquee is going to work. I could be wrong. We'll find out next week. We'll find out in 2 weeks. With that said, I hope you find that this was at least semi-helpful, and enjoy your day. Peace out.